And here we go. We have liftoff.
Propulsion continues to be normal.
R68 chamber pressure looks good.
Traveling up.
Water powers fly! Yes!
Tango down to nominal.
Fighting downside SPD off. Bring in SPD off. Off. It's orange! Orange 45!
Oh my god! Oh my god!
Decollage.
Amazing!
Put that in the big bag, Eagle.
343 unfolds to go.
Indeed.
We rise together, back to the moon and beyond.
This methane will be igniting in the flare, correct?
Thanks. Keep red. Sure. We don't need any more of these.
Good evening. You are looking live right now at Space Launch Complex 40 at the Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida, where we are set for another Starlink mission. But, as always, this isn't your ordinary Starlink mission. In fact, this one will set a brand new record as this booster gets ready to fly for its 18th time. I am Sawyer Rosenstein, and I will be your host for this evening's historic flight. And as the booster is now, I guess, enough flights old enough to vote, let me vote in the people here that will be commentating with me, including Alex. How's it going?
I see what you did there, Sawyer. Hello, everyone.
Starting off with the puns nice and early, I guess, there.
Indeed.
Also joining us from the field today is Julia. Julia, how's it going?
It's going wonderful, and welcome to another Friday Night Lights on the Space Coast. It's just we do our lights a little bit different.
Ooh, that's a great way to put it. I love that. Especially for those who are not American, Friday Night Lights is our basically high school / college football type thing here. Operating the camera out in the field is Max Evans, so he will be providing you these fantastic views of a sooty booster. And then pushing the buttons, pulling the levers, and making all these fun graphics and things happen is, of course, Kevin. So we've got our ace team here tonight for an 18th booster flight. But let's start with just the basic Starlink aspect of it. I say basic, it's still, pretty impressive here. Alex, what are we launching tonight?
Well, we are launching 23 Starlink V2 mini satellites. It's a bit of a departure from the other Group 6 flights that we're seeing here from Florida, in which, they have launched 22. The previous one prior to this one started with 23, and this one obviously continues that trend with another 23. And they're going to be going into a 285 by 293 kilometer orbit. Then they'll go, once they are deployed from the Falcon 9, they go up there and, go into their operational orbit, which is around 530 kilometers high up above the Earth. So, yeah, as you mentioned, this booster is B-1058. It's going to be landing on the drone ship, A Shortfall of Gravitas. And I think there might be someone here that might know a little bit more about this booster's, history and whole recovery thing, which today's a little bit weird. Right,
Yeah.
Julia?
Well, hang on one second. First, for the person that
Okay.
said that at 18 it can start drinking hard liquor, that not in the U.S. That would be 21. But it has already begun drinking in its RP-1 and LOX this week. Is confirmation from SpaceX that propellant load has begun for tonight's launch,
Neat.
and that all systems and weather are currently go. So, yes, as we were mentioning, with the RP-1 and LOX load now officially underway, as we get ready for the 18th flight of this booster, Julia, this is a special booster, and I know dear to all of our hearts here, but I'll let you bring us the history and why this mission is so special.
Absolutely. This one is near and dear to my heart, and we call it the worm, which I believe Max was pointing out. You can barely see the worm anymore, but it's there underneath all of that soot. The worm actually was thanks to the first flight, which was Crew Demo 2. And then we had Anasis 2, CRS 21, Transporter 1, Transporter 3, and 12 Starlink missions. You all, let me tell you, there are not boosters that are even 12 flights old yet, and this one has 12, soon to be 13 Starlink flights under its belt. So, wow. So about that, we have to recover this booster so we can try to get to 19 and 20 and beyond, right? We hope beyond. And with that being said, the fleet is a little bit battling some rough seas. So we haven't even gotten our previous mission booster back yet. As of last night, they were still hanging out by the islands, sheltering from some rough seas. Which brings us to tonight. A Shortfall of Gravitas is indeed out at the landing zone. We can't do this without that, right? But guess who is not out at the landing zone, Sawyer?
Oh,
The support ship, Doug. Doug had turned around, came back, and went back out. And as of this afternoon, they were still 11 hours away from supporting the drone ship, which leads to some interesting questions like, how did personnel unhook the tug from the drone ship, and who may or may not have cleared the deck? With rough seas, without a support ship in a basket, crew transfer's a little interesting. So maybe perhaps with our autonomy that we get to experiment a little bit more with, thanks to the Coast Guard, maybe something's a little bit different tonight out there, but currently they're running without a support ship, which means also fairings, well, fairings can be fished out of the sea a little bit later if need be. But I imagine
Treat.
Doug is going to steam straight on over to the fairing landing zone.
yeah, that will be interesting to see. And keep in mind, we saw that kind of white ring around the booster of white. We're not exactly sure what that was, but the other kind of white ring that you see moving up the booster is, in fact, now the frost building, indicating, as we discussed earlier, that the fuel load is well underway now. We will have to see what ends up happening without that support ship. So what actually happens prior to a launch? We don't really talk about this. What preparations are done to the drone ship by these support ships ahead of a liftoff, Julia?
Well, typically, crew would transfer onto the drone ship to do a FOD check, much like we would do at any other launch pad. But in this case, it's a landing pad. And they would also do that out at LZ1. You don't want to have debris that can kick up, do damage to hardware on the deck, possibly kick up and do damage to the engines that we would want to further reuse. So typically with our newer support ships, Bob and Doug, what we would do is do a crew transfer a la oil rig style in a crew transfer basket. Now, admittedly, I do believe our current contract tugs do have cranes. So if they happen to have a crew transfer basket, they could go on board. So that is one possibility. The other thing really they do is just kind of a systems check. You got to make sure your water's flowing for any needs on deck to cool it down after the booster lands, and make sure Octograbber is ready to go. And then they transfer back to the ship, and they go roughly 2 miles away, much like we do when we're out on base watching a launch. They go about 2 miles away to watch it land. So maybe perhaps our tugs are a little more enabled than we give them.
I have a question, Julia, because I'm curious.
Yeah.
When Doug got out, right? Because it left first, and then it kind of turned around and went back. It did something else at the port, and then went back out again. And as you mentioned, it's a little bit behind of the times, right? It's gonna get there a little bit late. But my question is, did it ever like catch up to the drone ship in its trip out?
I don't believe
Or-
so.
Yeah.
I don't think it got that far. Unfortunately, I don't have Gavin to verify that, but I don't recall Gavin mentioning that it even had made it to a Shortfall of Gravitas. And A Shortfall of Gravitas was still going downrange when it turned around. So, but never fear. I mean, fairings, they're a really cool thing. So if they're going to steam straight over, the fairings may have landed already, but they have their own system that will ping them to be able to locate it. And even though they're as big as a bus, they're very floaty, and they have been designed since the Mr. Steven days, right? They've actually been modified a bit to enable them to not, to not retain water from the ocean as they bob around. So, I mean, they should be all right, provided that their parachutes have a good landing and the seas aren't too rough. So that's another thing to look for when things come back to port is, did we get 2 fairings, 1 fairing, or no fairings? It's a mystery, and we'll solve it Scooby-Doo style. Yeah, when they come
back. That's why we have Fleet Cam.
Yeah,
that's right. I love our Fleet Cam.
Over at Space Coast Live 24/7, available on the YouTube channel. So we will have to see how they fare-ing.
Ha ha ha. But you know what? This Scooby-Doo fan hasn't had a mystery to solve in a while, so I'm not going to lie. What is normally routine and not routine today kind of makes it a little bit more fun to figure out later.
Yeah, because I had in the back of my mind, they were sort of developing the whole autonomous drone ship, like actual autonomous drone ship. You know what I mean? Because it's technical, the autonomous spaceport drone ship whole thing, ASDS. But obviously they want the drone ships to be able to, once they're out of the port, you remove the tug and just let it go out on its own or whatever. So I was thinking maybe Doug got to the point of where the drone ship was, they were able to remove the tug and then, do the whole thing. But if it didn't get to that point, then it probably didn't happen.
Yeah, probably not. But you know what? That's okay. I honestly have a feeling that if nothing else, the tug could probably disconnect the tow line, even if they don't do a personnel transfer. So I can't imagine a tug not being able to do that one, or at least hold a line on it so they can drop it and still go 2 miles away. So that's I don't know. That's gonna be interesting. But it's good to see that we have 2 tugs in use right now, because without them, we wouldn't be able to launch tonight, in all honesty.
Well, like Zoink's team, we have so much support that I want to hit here really quickly, if you don't mind.
Jeepers, yes.
Jinkies, we've got, before the stream even started, RC Horseman coming in here with 10 gifted Red Team memberships. Thank you so much for that. And Nolan Strain also becoming a Red Team member before our stream even began. That is always much appreciated. Santiago, thank you for becoming a Capcom member. Reminder, Capcom and above gets access to the NSF Discord. Yarma Narnar, thank you for becoming a Pad Rat member, along with the Gaming Ham. Yum. Jim Cavett, thank you. There's a name we love to hear. Gifting a Red Team membership as well. Richard Cochrane coming in with the Great British Pound, saying good luck tonight, folks. Thank you very much. It is appreciated. Musical Wolves with 2 messages of support here. First, saying, can we have a pun of 18 landings? I'm already at 3 puns tonight, so what is that, 15 more to go? Sorry in advance. And then also asking here, which will be the next booster to have 18 launches? Hashtag pun tokens. Alex, what would be next? Oh, Julia, you want to take that one first?
Go.
Well, it would be 1060, because we tend to go in sequence between 1058 and 1060. So those are our 2 veteran boosters. How exciting.
Oh, yes. And they will hopefully continue to be flight proven even more so tonight.
Yeah, and then after that, it should be 61 and 62. It's basically in order, like 58, then 60 and 61 and 62.
But who's counting as he checks his spreadsheet?
I am counting because I have a spreadsheet. There you go. That's my pun of the day.
Perfect. Jeb here with 33-month Capcom member milestone, saying I was hoping something more interesting than a Starlink for my birthday launch, but I guess the 18th flight of a booster is interesting enough. Hey, when I'm hosting, there's always something interesting about these Starlink flights. You know I like to lead off with that, so we find something fun with it, and you being here makes it fun, so happy birthday.
And happy birthday. I'm sending you virtual cookies. I hope they're delicious.
Oh, you are lucky. Julia's cookies are indeed delicious, her pre-launch treats.
I'm so
And then
jealous.
you should be. Zane getting a couple items from shop.nasaspaceflight.com saying, NSF, thanks for the great coverage of these amazing events in human space exploration history. Bacon 5x5. Nice, with the original Texas Tank Watchers there. Also getting a couple other items. Let's see if they will pop up for us. There we go. Sometimes our software can be not so happy with us. The patch for that second integrated flight test coming up of Starship no earlier than mid-November. And, the Raptor Tree, part of our brand new holiday collection, just unveiled today as part of This Week in Spaceflight. We first announced them. Now available at shop.nasaspaceflight.com. All of our awesome holiday sweaters. There's even knit beanies. And yes, these are all knit. It's fantastic stuff. We'll get more into those later, I promise, because they are worth it. Let's hit a question here. Houston Lucas is asking, what is the P jellyfish, the percentage of likeliness of a jellyfish tonight? What do you think, Julia?
Boo, you're not going to like my answer. Had we launched at the beginning of the window, jellyfish might have been an option, and it probably would have been a very pretty launch. Every launch is beautiful, but this one not as beautiful as a jellyfish. I am so sorry. The moon is rising too late, and the sun is long gone here on the Space Coast. Friendly reminder, though, if you are in the U.S., your clocks are going to change tomorrow night into Sunday. Just reminding you.
Yeah, I know that well because I had a deadline for a certain thing that we were doing here at the SEF, and I got it 1 hour later because we in Europe changed the clocks last week.
Yeah, there's that 1 week weirdness where all of our times are even more off than usual. So, yes, a reminder that it is spring ahead, fall behind. So we will go back 1 hour here in the United States, and all of our times will then be in standard time. So this launch is currently scheduled for Eastern Daylight Time. The next launch after that will be standard time. But one thing that we could probably set our clocks to is set to happen in about 15 seconds from now, and it is a vent, but not just any event. This event is the best vent. So, Alex, what is the T-minus 20-minute, 20-second vent, as I make a pun to try and stretch for an extra 3 seconds here?
Yeah, so, and there you go. That's the vent. It appeared right on time. That is the T-minus 20-minute vent. That is the start of the liquid oxygen chill down. Basically, the lines for the liquid oxygen load on the second stage start to get chilled down. And so you see that venting coming out of the transporter. Now with a tower in the middle, you kind of think that, oh, well, it's the tower. I guess this might be our tower vent for Falcon 9. Because then Starship also has this kind of vent when, it is getting ready for fueling. It is pretty much the same thing. They chill down the lines because you're going to put a lot of liquid oxygen through these pipes. And before getting them at the full flow that you want to flow, through that pipe, just put a little bit of it so that the lines themselves go down to the temperatures of that liquid oxygen. Because otherwise, if you were to flow that liquid oxygen at the, higher rate that you load them onto the vehicle, then it will boil off instantaneously, right? It will just vaporize, just like we're seeing there. That vent is that oxygen, that gaseous oxygen venting out of the transporter reactor, and so that's pretty much what you will see, but inside of the pipe. That's what you don't want to see, because otherwise that pipe will suffer a lot. So this is a prevention measure, so to speak. It'll last about 4 minutes or so. That's when we have our indication that the second stage LUX load will begin. You can see there on the timeline on the left, we are about 2 minutes and 40 seconds to go for that.
There you go. And shout out to Kevin and Jay behind the scenes, pulling all of that up for us tonight here. Alex, here's an interesting question for you, because we talked about how it's the 23 satellites instead of 22, and the storied history of all the things this booster has carried. Neil Lawson wants to know, is this B-1058-18's heaviest payload?
That's a great question. So, there's the whole question of whether these 23 satellites are heavier than when they were launching 56 Starlink V1.5 satellites. There's that whole conversation, because there were a lot of assumptions when we made the whole, Starlink V2 minis are 800 kilograms, and boom, that's it. There's a lot of assumptions behind that. So obviously, if you think that it is 800, then sure, it is. But if you're a little bit lax on the assumptions that you make, say instead of being 800, it is maybe 770 kilograms, for example, then the V1.5 satellites are actually, like, the 56 of those are heavier than the 23 of these. So, is this the heaviest payload for B-1058? We don't know, because we have to make assumptions on what is the actual mass of these satellites, and there could be a bit of a leeway here and there on what is the actual mass. There's not really an exact payload mass that SpaceX has put out, so the answer is a very disappointing. We don't know. Sorry,
Well,
but that's the whole thing.
I think it's safe to say, though, that this will be the heaviest payload ever carried by an 18th flight Falcon 9 booster.
Oh, of course, but it's also the first. Come on.
It's right. That means it's also the lightest carried by an 18-time flown Falcon 9 booster. But yes. Anyway, Brain Dare coming in with a question here asking, can you show us the track of tonight's launch? I saw Saturday's launch from Miami. It was great. So, Julia, which way should people look for tonight's launch?
Well, ironically, the same direction. So you have a very good chance in Miami on a clear night to see it again. How wonderful is that? And it is clear here. So I'm hoping we maybe get to see re-entry burn at least. So good chance you'll have a good view today. By the way, that means we are going southeasterly. That would be, I think, the direction of the year.
Pretty much. The majority of them at this point seem to be going southeasterly there, and then the second stage will deorbit, as you can see on the screen there, around the Cape of Good Hope. Speaking of Good Hope, we have some good hope that we are continuing on track with the vent ending on the booster there, as mentioned, which should indicate that the Stage 2 LOX load, liquid oxygen, is underway. And we've also been getting some absolutely crazy, generous, fantastic support tonight. So I want to thank Roland Hines for gifting a Red Team membership. Boy, the gifting train is on tonight. I love the love. James Deloach, thank you for gifting a Red Team membership. Sideshow Bob, thank you for gifting a Red Team membership. Jim Cavett, thank you for gifting a Red Team membership. RC Horseman, thank you for gifting 10 more Red Team memberships. Holy cow, we love this. The more people that get access to these awesome photos and videos behind the scenes that you only get to see as members, love it. That includes also Edward Miller, who became a Red Team member. I have Paul Batraw becoming a PadRat member and then upgrading quickly to Red Team membership. Gisetta, thank you for becoming a PadRat member. David Spector, 15-month launch director member milestone. That is, the generosity there is greatly appreciated. Saying, thanks guys and gals for the amazing coverage, and I do appreciate this message. And for Sawyer, go Jets, 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 Jets. I added the Jets part, but yes. And Richard Cochran saying, my first memory of a jellyfish was stepping barefoot onto one on the beach as a kid. Does that count?
Ouch.
Ouch. No. I mean, yes, of course it counts. And beware of those if you visit our beaches for a lunch, because sometimes we do have some that are very not fun to step on at the beach.
Yes, the crew awards. I mean, man awards. Sorry, yes. Those can be quite painful.
They're so pretty, though.
Yes, they're pretty to look at from afar. Uh, anyway, Matrix asking here, and this is a really good question also. Does this booster still have all 9 original engines, or have some been replaced? Alex, that was for you.
Yeah, they probably have replaced more than one. At the end of the day, the booster, it's the main thing. The body of the booster, the tanks, all of the plumbing and everything. That's very expensive to manufacture. If you can reuse that, that's very, very nice to do. But the engines, even the engine components, sometimes get replaced as well, even on other boosters that have flown many less times. But yeah, the problem is obviously we don't know the specifics, but that's mainly a SpaceX problem, not our problem to deal with, to be honest. Yeah, but you can be sure that probably it doesn't have all of the engines. That's my bet.
Yeah, and also given how quick the turnaround time is, which the name's Dave asked, what is the turnaround time for a relaunch? Could we maybe see 20 before end of the year, 20 flights of this booster? What was the turnaround time for this one, Alex?
This one is a little bit under 45 days. To be a bit more precise, it is 44 days, 20 hours, and 59 minutes. So maybe we'll see the 19th launch in December if they keep the same sort of turnaround, but definitely not the 20th this year. I don't think there's enough time.
Yeah, that may have been a 45-day turnaround, but in 52 days, it will become Christmas. And you know that you've got to be repping your NASA spaceflight gear for Christmas. In particular, our brand new Christmas/holiday collection just released today. Take a look at these. These are all knit sweaters and caps. And yes, we are talking actually knit. We've got some awesome designs, both in terms of the cape here and crew flight and dragon, as well as, of course, the beautiful Raptor Christmas trees and our Mars ones for Starbase. There is a collection of both, and they are all absolutely fantastic. I love the detail on all of these. And don't forget, these are now available at shop.nasaspaceflight.com. And don't forget to order... Yes, the beanies included as well. I love the beanie one that has the tiles on it too. Just saying. So you can get the knitted beanies, the knitted sweaters at shop.nasaspaceflight.com, and don't forget, I believe you have until the 20th if you want guaranteed delivery before Christmas. The link to that is also pinned in the chat. Huge shout out to Pauline and the store team helping to design these awesome products here. I love them.
They're really cool.
Yes. Well, they'll keep you warm when it's cool, that's for sure.
That's true.
Oh boy, yeah. Trying to be as smooth as I can there with those transitions. As we now approach T-minus 10 minutes until the launch of Starlink 6-26. Let's take some more questions here. Here is one that is kind of speculation, but I'm still going to ask it anyway. Whitney and John Cook asking, do you think we will see a 20-plus flight booster? Not saying when, but do you think we'll see them? Julie, I'll start with you on that one.
You just caught me while I was setting up a camera. Sawyer, tell me again, what was the question?
Do you think we will see 20-plus flight boosters? As we already get someone getting one of those sweaters, by the way. But do you think we'll see a 20-plus flight booster ever?
Yeah, I think we will. The question is, in all honesty, where are we going to say stop? Are we going to take a risk and maybe have our last flight of a booster be while it's in flight, or are we going to say, okay, I think we did enough and let's stop? So I guess to me, that's the bigger question. I think we have the ability to go more than 20, but how will we find the end?
That is the question. Especially, keep in mind, the target to beat right now is 39 by Space Shuttle Discovery. So, had to throw the shuttle reference in there. Haven't had one yet tonight. Let's see. Alex, I may need to give you a couple seconds to check your spreadsheet on this one, but of the 71 missions so far this year, LSR wants to know how many of them have been Starlink.
Oh boy. Wasn't the last one the 50th or something
Yes,
like
it was.
I think it's faster if I count the one that were customer missions.
At this
Yeah,
rate, you're probably right.
yeah, that caught me a bit off guard, so I will have to look into it. But yeah, this is probably the 51st this year, which is a lot of missions for Starlink. But if you want to know how many in total, that I do know because I actually keep track of that. This is the 190th overall launch dedicated exclusively to Starlink, and there's been a couple of others. As you may remember, there were 2 transporter missions which carried Starlink as ride shares, which means that it was not a dedicated Starlink flight. And then there was also the first, pair of Starlink prototypes, Tintin A and B. Those were launched as rideshares as well. So those will be 3 added on top of the 199th that these will be. And this will also be the 45th launch in support of the 2nd generation of the Starlink. So we're getting almost 50-50 there, where most of the launches are going to be surely all in basically in support of that 2nd constellation of Starlink. It's kind of crazy that we're at that point.
That is absolutely crazy that we are there. And before we hit another major point here, I do want to say I saw someone that got the Raptor engine Christmas tree one, which is definitely one of my favorite ones. And we did see a Raptor fire just a few seconds ago over at McGregor Live, so make sure you always follow that to see when we might be able to have Raptor test firings and even some Falcon 9 test firings. But at this point now, we are at T-minus 7 minutes, so Alex, why is that significant with Falcon 9?
Well, just like with the tower, the transporter rector, I should say. I got in Starship mode for a second there. So just like with the transporter rector, you need to chill down the pipes before loading the liquid oxygen onto the 2nd stage. A similar thing happens with the Merlin 1D engines on the 1st stage, and later also with the 2nd stage as well, where you probably want to have the engine cool down so that when you flow that cold liquid oxygen through it, it is already conditioned so that that liquid oxygen doesn't boil off instantly and destroy your engine. That's something that you wouldn't want to do that. And so at T-minus 7 minutes, we see that engine chill starting. We actually don't see it, but it's sort of part of the process. What we see though, once in flight, the Merlin 1D engine on the 2nd stage, the MVAC engine, that also gets chilled down. The problem is it happens during flight. But you might see, hopefully in about 6 minutes or so, it's about 1 minute into flight when it starts, on the side of the vehicles, it's like a little vent that comes off, and that is from the engine chill on the MVAC engine on the 2nd stage.
There you go. Now, Julia, we are approaching T-minus 5.5 minutes here. I know you've got cameras that you were working on there, so I'm going to let you go to set those up, and we will talk to you after launch.
See you after lunch.
Looking forward to it. And then really quickly want to hit some last support here before we get into the nitty-gritty of the count. Bideford, a name we love hearing here, thank you for gifting 10 Red Team memberships. Renata, thank you for becoming a PadRat member. Hamster Space Nerd 3000, approaching my 3rd year as a Space Nerd now. It's been amazing, and all thanks to you guys. Spent way too much class time watching Starship streams and laughing along. Go, Internet Rocket, go. Well, we appreciate you watching, so thank you. We've got Dan saying, this will cap off a great week. Let me guess, you got one of the caps. The knitted caps that just came out. Yes, I love the pun there. Tim saying, records are meant to be broken. Let's break some more today. I am all about that. And again, getting more of the awesome gear of the knitted holiday collection now. Ooh, good choices. And then Space Ignorant 9-month Red Team member milestone. Let's hope that there are no RUDs, and that is the answer to that. We'll keep our fingers crossed for no RUDs. And then Mark saying I had to buy a Falcon 9 Christmas sweater. How could you not? They're really awesome. Again, shout out to the store team. Now, we are coming up on T-minus 4 minutes here, which will indicate the beginning of Strong Back Retract. That is the tower behind the other tower that you currently see on screen. That is what provides a lot of the propellants, and as well as power, data, and even some air conditioning for the payload fairing cables to the rocket. That will go back just a couple of degrees before completely throwing back at T0. Right, Alex? The Strong Back does a lot more than people think.
Yeah, there's a lot of connections to the rocket. from the fairing, the second stage, even the first stage is fuel from the bottom though, but it does have a few like there's an umbilical on the interstage to basically vent the interstage as well.
Also quite important. And again, for those wondering, that tower to the right with the lights on it, that is, well, now to the left, that is SpaceX's brand new crew access tower created at Space Launch Complex 40. That way, they will soon be able to launch crew from this launch pad. As of now, that is currently only capable from Launch Complex 39A over at the Kennedy Space Center side. We are now T-minus 3 minutes away from liftoff. So how does the propellant loading kind of wrap up here on this timeline, Alex?
Yeah, so right now they are wrapping up the load of liquid oxygen on the first stage. That'll be sort of the final step on the first stage. And then the same thing will happen about a minute later. And I just heard the call out of first stage liquid oxygen load is complete. So there we go. The first stage is now fully loaded with propellants. The second stage is going to be next with also the liquid oxygen, as you can see on the timeline there on the left. And due to that, we're going to see sort of the same thing that we saw at T-minus 20 minute, which we'll see that vent of the propellant lines to, release all of that liquid oxygen from the lines and everything so that it doesn't become nasty or any sort of, thing that might burn up during liftoff. Then at T-minus 1 minute, startup sequence, the ground computers hand over the control of the countdown to the onboard computers on Falcon 9, and then we proceed with launch preparations. The final minute is, tanks go to flight pressure, and pretty much the end of the countdown. You can see there that vent from the tower. That is the indication of liquid oxygen load is complete on the second stage. So now the Falcon 9 is fully loaded with propellants ahead of its launch.
As we approach T-minus 90 seconds, the launch of the Starlink 6-26 mission that is carrying 23 of the Starlink V2 mini internet satellites. This will also mark a record-setting 18th flight of a Falcon 9 booster with B1058, acting as the first stage for this launch. So far, everything is proceeding as planned. As mentioned, as we come up on T-minus 1 minute, that is when all of the tanks will pressurize to flight level, and probably also just as important, as we approach T-minus 1 minute now, Falcon 9 will enter startup. That is when all of the onboard computers will take control of the countdown at this point, making all of the fine adjustments and keeping track of most of the parameters autonomously at this point now. Next up, we should be getting the go for launch any moment now from the launch director. That is the last thing that we need ahead of the final T0 here.
And they are go for launch.
All right, we have the go for launch as we approach T-minus 30 seconds. A reminder, we will be quiet throughout liftoff here so you can enjoy the sounds of the Falcon 9 launch, and we will rejoin you shortly after max Q. Beware, there will be a delay in the sound getting to our microphones a couple miles away as we now approach T-minus 10 seconds till launch. T-minus 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Booster ignition and liftoff. Liftoff of Starlink 6-26, and as B1058 takes to the sky for the 18th time, go Internet Satellites V2, go. It appears we are having some slight technical issues with the audio there, but there we go. There we go. We'll let you enjoy a little more of that audio as we pass through max Q. That is when the maximum aerodynamic pressure is pushing down against the vehicle as it climbs up into its orbit. We have about a minute left on the burn of the first stage before 3 events in rapid succession. Alex, what's coming up?
Well, right now we are approaching MECO, main engine cutoff, and that'll be followed a few seconds later with a stage separation, and then MVAC ignition. The MVAC is the Merlin vacuum engine on the second stage, and that'll be burning for about 6 minutes on this flight. And meanwhile, the first stage is going to coast for another 3 or 4 minutes and return back to a drone ship landing.
There we go, and we are approximately 15 seconds away from that main engine cutoff. We say approximately because even though SpaceX does provide times, the onboard computers are what make the decisions of exactly when to cut off the engines on the vehicle. So keep an eye out for that on your screen, and there we go. We have MECO, main engine cutoff. That will be followed next by the separation of the 2 vehicles. And there we go. We have second engine start. Here's the replay of it basically from SpaceX's point of view there. But that is the second stage now. The Merlin vacuum engine continuing its burn as you see the puffs of the cold gas jet thrusters there from that first stage behind it, right?
Mm-hmm. We're also going to have shortly the fairing separation as well.
The fairing, the 2 clamshell type halves at the very top of the rocket that protect the Starlink satellites while they are in Earth's orbit, in Earth's atmosphere, as they get into the thinner parts of the atmosphere and into space, they're no longer needed. And as you're about to see on your screen, separate away just like so. Those will actually parachute down to be recovered and hopefully reflown at a later time. Now at T plus 3 minutes and 30 seconds, our ground cameras here continuing to track the vehicle on the way up. The next event that we will expect for the first stage, our booster 1058 on its 18th flight now, about 6 minutes and 15 seconds or so into the flight, we will expect the first stage entry burn to begin, which is an approximately 20-second long burn that uses the engines and its own fire, basically, to slow itself down. That will last about 20 seconds, as mentioned. Then, at about T plus 8 minutes, the landing burn will begin, hopefully followed shortly after by a gentle touchdown on the drone ship waiting downrange, A Shortfall of Gravitas.
You know, someone asked before, because there's B1058, right? We were mentioning B1058, and then it's 60, 61, and 62. As we were mentioning, that's sort of the oldest boosters. Someone asked, where's B1059? And, well, I gotta tell you, that was actually the last booster that we lost. That was a really, really sad, lose of that booster. That was due to some seagulls. It's actually not due to seagulls, but that was the running joke. Exactly. And so if you count from that landing failure to today's landing, hopefully it'll all be successful. And if that happens, that'll be the 167th consecutive landing since then. So you just can't imagine how better these landings have been getting. I mean, that landing failure was in 2021, and there's been hundreds of launches since then, and many other landings as well.
Yeah, and keep in mind, this booster first flew, as you can guess by the number, before that. This first flight of this booster was the demo crew mission for NASA. That was the first time that astronauts had launched from U.S. soil since 2011. That was the Demo 2 mission. That was the first flight of this booster, as it now continues on its way here on its 18th flight, approaching that landing burn. So, Alex, how exactly does the landing burn work on slowing this one down? Because it's very unique.
Yeah, so it starts first with the center engine, and then 2 other engines ignite as well to become 3. And that it kind of looks like there's like a line of fire. It starts with the ring of fire, then a line of fire, and then they shut down those 2 other engines with 1 engine, and then that single engine shuts down. That's sort of the shutdown sequence of that process. Oh, there we go. Look at that.
And there you go. That is the first stage entry burn. We like to say, Alex, slowing it down by fighting fire with fire, right?
Exactly. Yeah, and that is from the Cape, so that is amazing.
There we
That
go. It
shows
appears
how
that
clear today is.
burn is now complete. Again, in case you're wondering why the boosters are so sooty, that is the reason why, as it is flying through its own smoke plume, and the propellant used, RP1, is a refined form of kerosene, which is carbon-based, so you get the sooty boosters. And we continue to track it now at this point. We are now coming up on T plus 7 minutes, as we see the empty pad there. We are about a minute away from that landing burn, where hopefully it will successfully touch down on a shortfall of gravitas, as you can kind of see some of that interaction with the atmosphere going through the grid fins on the left side of your screen, those waffle-looking type features that will be used to help steer the booster as it gets into that thicker part of the atmosphere just before landing. And with this particular mission, the landing is scheduled to occur before SECO 1, which is second engine cutoff 1. That is when the Merlin vacuum engine on the right side of your screen will shut down, hopefully placing those Starlink satellites into their initial parking orbit. So we're going to stand by for that landing burn, which is expected to happen about 30 seconds from now. You can see it's already 7 kilometers off the deck and slowing down quickly, approaching just 1,000 kilometers an hour. Compare that to the second stage, currently at 21,400 kilometers per hour and climbing. You'll stand by for that landing here, hopefully momentarily. And we are standing by for... It's a single engine burn for this, right? And there it goes. There is the ignition of that landing burn on the left side of your screen. Slightly choppy visuals, but there you go. You can see from the drone ship on the right side of your screen. Just off the deck, slowing down, landing legs deployed, and... touchdown! Booster 1058, setting the brand new record, marking the 18th reflight of a SpaceX Falcon 9 booster. The fleet leader continues to lead. And at this point, we should hopefully have confirmation as well of the initial parking orbit for those Starlink satellites. We say initial because there will be a second burn known as SES-2 that will put them into their final parking orbit prior to satellite deploy. But that comes at about T plus 54 minutes into the flight. And X marks the spot. You know what else marks the spot? Shop.nasaspaceflight.com, where you can grab our brand new Christmas merch, which has the Raptor engines, but also has some of that SpaceX Crew flight that we were talking about as well, which, again, Demo 2, the first flight that booster successfully carried, as it now lands safely on a shortfall of Gravitas to be flown again. So if you love the Raptors, and you love Falcon, and the Crew flight, and everything going on with it, and you love the holiday season, just released today at shop.nasaspaceflight.com, we have the actually knit, sweaters and beanies. And if you order before the 20th, don't forget, you can get it before Christmas time, so that way you can wear it on Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, maybe even for the Vulcan launch, currently scheduled for Christmas Eve Day, and stay warm during it. Again, shop.nasaspaceflight.com. Julia, what was that launch like for you?
Oh my goodness. I am located on Merritt Island right now at Kelly Park, and let me tell you, that was beautiful. Just the colors of the plume as it was. When I say Friday Night Lights, these are the best ones. And with that being said, on Merritt Island, I could actually feel the rumble, which is bonkers, because I was sitting waterside, and I kid you not, I felt it, and it was a beautiful crackle tonight. And I cannot wait to share this picture that I'm editing right now with you guys, because it turned out pretty darn nice, and it even has a boat in it.
Oh, we love the boats. Yeah, I'll let you get back to editing that one. But for those unaware, to hear it along the water all the way down at Merritt Island where Julie was located, you don't normally get that loud of a rumble with a standard Falcon 9, so that was fantastic. And we did hear a little bit of the sonic squeal from the vehicle assembly building, that kind of haunting Halloween-type sound almost, that we had once we got our launch audio up and going there. Alex, we have a new record now.
Boy, that was amazing.
What other stats can you give us now for this particular mission?
Well, I'm mostly sure, I haven't really actually checked this out, but for the longest time, B1058 was also the record holder of the most satellites launched. So if you count all of the missions that B1058 has done and all of the satellites that have launched on each of those missions and you add them up, I think I think it still keeps the record. The last time that I actually went through it, it had the record for like a couple of dozen satellites. The second one being B1060, because that's the other, booster that's also launched many times. And hopefully, in just a few weeks, we'll see as well doing 18 flights as well. But definitely cool, man. That was quite a flight.
Yeah, it's been a good launch. I'm sorry, been a good launch. To see all the beanies popping up at the corner. So in terms of other fun landing numbers, though, this is the 191st sea recovery, 157th in a row of successful landings now for SpaceX, and their 241st ever booster landing. That's pretty impressive.
I can give you one round number, because this was on A Shortfall of Gravitas. This was the 50th landing on A Shortfall of Gravitas, and also the 50th successful, because all of the attempted landings on that drone ship have been successful. So hopefully it keeps the record for a long time.
So you're saying it hasn't had a shortfall of success?
Of Gravitas. Yeah. Shortfall of boosters.
And the previous Starlink launch set our satellite count over 5,000, I believe, that will be operational. And this just adding to that, right?
Mm-hmm. We always, what we do, because we have This Week in Spaceflight all Fridays, by the way, hi, promotion, because I write those. And I usually try to put, when there's like multiple Starlink missions in the week, I usually put at the end of all of those a little bit of a stats on what is the status of the Starlink constellation, how many they have launched, how many have re-entered. So if you check the latest one, you just gotta add 23 from this one and you get the numbers.
Yeah. There you go. Let them do the maths, right?
Yeah.
There we go. Tried to be both American and overseas friendly, but trying to slip in an S there at the end. It's kind of there, but not really there. Look at that. The holiday gear coming in. Again, get it by the 20th and guarantee you'll have it before Christmas. It's exciting. Now, also want to thank some people here for their support during the stream. You guys have been unbelievably generous this stream, and it's because of you that we're able to provide you all of these different live launch pictures and videos with all of our remote cameras that caught it through majority of the flight this time, too. Chris W., thank you for gifting a Red Team membership. Steve Kalovic saying, happy early birthday, Mom. A big happy early birthday to Steve's mom there. We appreciate your support, and we appreciate your son. Jim Cavett, thank you for gifting a Red Team membership. Brian Wright, thank you for becoming a PadRat member. And the love in the store is beyond appreciated. I know Adrian, who's helping with the store, and Pauline, who came up with the awesome design, are squeeing somewhere in the back channel. We've got an anonymous message here from the store saying, love the merch. Glad you love it. I know the team works really hard on these, so it's exciting to see. Joe saying, I'm ordering this for my husband for Christmas. This will make him even more irresistible. First off, there's a sentence I never thought I'd say on air here at NASA Spaceflight, but I'm very glad. Hopefully I didn't spoil any surprises by mentioning it on air. Dan also getting an item from the store. I'm sorry, I'm laughing way too hard at that, saying thanks everyone. Well, thank you for grabbing some merch from the store. I'm hoping it's from the collection. It is. I do love that Crew Dragon one. Just saying, I have one coming my way. 'Cause I do love
blue.
that. It's not orange?
It's not orange.
It's
We
blue.
should probably have done one.
I'm sure Jack will somehow end up with one.
Oh, for sure. You can bet on that.
Neil saying, awesome idea on the sweaters. Hopefully we get a Starship launch before Christmas. Yes, that I guess will be the question now. Which will come first, the sweaters or the Starship launch?
Hopefully, Starship.
Well, I don't know. It'll be close now. Again, SpaceX today saying mid-November. So we will keep our fingers crossed for that. And then Trixie, 3 months as a Red Team member here saying, hey, NSF, thanks for the coverage. Hey, Trixie, thank you for the support. It is greatly appreciated. The reason we're still on air here, we have a gorgeous image that just came in from Julia that we will get on air to you momentarily. Brian, though, also 15-month Red Team member milestone. Thank you very much for your support for the past 15 months here at NASA Spaceflight. It is greatly appreciated. And then Shannon saying, do you know Minus 10 and Counting, 80s Space Age folk album on Archive and YouTube? Been in love with that. Can't say I've actually ever heard that one. The only real 80s type thing when it comes to that I'm aware of is the song Countdown by Rush, which NASA actually invited them out there to view STS-1 and then created that brilliant song afterwards. Besides the fact I just love Rush anyway. It's a great space song, Countdown. I've never heard of Space Age folk, so I will have to check that out. The other thing we'll have to check out is this beautiful shot from Julia tonight. A gorgeous streak, even through the vibrations. Take a look at that. Unbelievable. Julia, do we still have you on air?
You do still have me on air, Sawyer. Hi.
Can you give us a little behind the scenes on that? Because this is absolutely stunning.
Well, thank you. So this one is, I'm very close to work, to be honest, and I needed to be somewhere close to work so I could join you on stream. And Kelly Park offers a very unique view. I've got Port Canaveral, kind of, some of those lights you're seeing are in the center of the image. I've got a lovely boat that was docked nearby me, and I don't know. I told you all it was a beautiful launch to watch, and I hope that was conveyed in the picture.
I think that's very strongly conveyed as the strong back once again goes up on the right side of your screen there, up pad 40. An unintentional wordplay there that actually worked out. But Julia, fantastic shot. Thank you for rolling out tonight. Thank you for sharing all of your insight with us on air and for the gorgeous photo.
Thank you for having me.
Always a pleasure having you on, Julia. You know that. And Alex, thank you as well for joining us tonight here for the commentary portion of the stream and your always amazing insight and your spreadsheets, and most importantly, for actually laughing at my jokes.
I laugh very easily, to be honest. It's not that they are bad, okay? I'll be honest there, but I don't know. I also laugh very easily. So yeah, thank you for having me as well. It's always a pleasure, and definitely a great launch today and landing as well, because these boosters do land and will return, so you will be able to see them returning on Space Coast Live. A bit of a plug there. Also, the next launch is another Starlink. So yeah.
I think first off, that was a compliment and an insult at the same time there, that you just laugh at anything and that they're kind of funny. I know there are people that would disagree with you on that, but yeah, that is, as someone put in chat, a squeaking endorsement. Thank you very much as well. Behind the scenes here, we had Jay pushing the buttons and pulling the levers during the launch portion, and Kevin helping out with the fantastic on-screen graphics and pulling up some of those pictures as quickly as they do. We have Chris B even here coming in with a pun in the back channel here. Be careful not to skid, because tonight you were slick. Well, I appreciate it. Max operating the cameras tonight for us down at the press site there at the Kennedy Space Center. Thank you very much, as always, for your fantastic tracking work. And Gage also with some of the great track. How do we get a pun token up there? And Gage, thank you very much for the tracking. Talk about tracking. Uses a trackpad and was able to continue to track that second stage all the way through. I'm getting the playoff music I hear in the background already. So I've been your host, Sawyer Rosenstein. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. Don't forget, our next live stream that we will be commentating on is a fantastic NSF Live with, we've got, yeah, Alex, do you want to tell him?
Oh yeah, we have No, Jack. I mean, Jack is an excellent host, but also we have two exciting guests with us, which are going to be Jared Isaacman, and we're also going to have Tim Dodd. Our friend Tim Dodd, the everyday astronaut. Both are going to be on with Jack, which I believe they were all three in some kind of training thing. You'll find out on Sunday if you tune in. So yeah, definitely check that out.
Hopefully we'll see you then. Don't forget we always have our 24/7 live feeds. Yeah, you can always go over there and set a reminder so you don't forget for that coming up Sunday, especially with the clock changes, so that way you're there on time. And yeah, again, don't forget you can check our feeds 24/7 where we have things going on live at the Cape. There's a or a Merlin, firing this very second over on McGregor Live. So there is a lot to watch. We thank you for joining us. There it is. There is a live Merlin engine firing in McGregor, Texas. So we saw the 9 Merlin 1Ds and 1 Merlin vacuum here, now another one over there at McGregor.
Look at the top left. Look how many firings they've done today.
Absolutely bonkies, as Crispy would say. There we go. So make sure you check all of those out. Thank you everyone for joining us tonight. And as Das likes to say, later nerds.
And here we go.
We have liftoff.
Propulsion continues to be normal.
R68 chamber pressure looks good.
Doubling up. Roger, roger, planet.
Water towers fly! Yes! Tango down to nominal.
Fighting downside FT off. Say again, FT off. Off. It's orange!
Oh my god! Oh my god!
Decollage.
Look at this!
Put that in the big bag,
343 unfolds to go.
Indeed.
We rise together back to the moon and beyond.
This methane will be igniting in the flare, correct?
Yikes. You dead? Sure. We don't need any more of these.